I lift weights. Oh, it's full of water. I tipped this thing over. What's going on, guys? I'm just trying to get a whole mix of things done today because it's fall, and with nothing but a soft kiss, autumn has killed summer. So here we are, and I've been reading this book, High Performance Habits by Brennan Burchard. I got it for $8. Supposedly, that just covered the shipping. But this is a really, really nice book, and honestly, I would expect to pay something more like $20 for a book like this. But I'm halfway through it, and it's only been a couple days because it's that good. The last chapter I just read, he was talking about flow state, which is basically a work state that you get into when you're really, really enjoying what you do. And a couple characteristics of flow state include not thinking about your physical needs. Sometimes you forget to drink or eat food, you forget to go to the bathroom, and you don't really realize until hours have gone by and you're like starving or you really have to pee. There's also a complete, what they call kind of like hyper focus. And it's kind of funny because being someone with ADHD, hyper focus is something that happens to us all the time. Like if you have ADHD and you're really into what you're doing, you completely lose the ability to be distracted and you like hyper focus. I can't really say that I hyper focus too much anymore. It used to happen to me a lot when I played video games as a child. It was like the sandbox games that would make me do it. Like when I was able to build things, kind of like Legos, right? I would just hyper focus for hours and get so into creating whatever I was doing that nothing distracted me. And apparently that's a flow state. It also happens when you're really, really dedicated to what you're doing. So if you strongly believe that there's like a hard deadline coming up, or someone you really care about really needs you to do what you're working on, or if you just passionately believe in what you're doing, you can go into a flow state. So something that I've noticed that triggers flow state with me when I'm working is when my clients do their progress checks. When some of them start seeing that they're losing pounds on the scale, or they upload new progress photos and there's like more muscle definition, stuff like that gets me so excited. And I'll usually like start filming a video and start rewriting the next phase of their program, going over their workout logs. And like before I know it, I'm in like a flow state because they're seeing results and like that's what they paid for and it's what I'm setting out to do. So it's super exciting and it gets me into that flow state. I also experience it when I'm making videos because honestly, working from home in a home office while my wife is gone all day, I get really lonely. And I took a personality test one time. I don't know how backed by scientific methods this test was, but it told me that I was 96% extroverted. So I get really lonely when I film these videos. It feels like I'm talking to someone. Maybe that's delusional, but I mean, you're watching this right now, so I guess I'm just kind of envisioning that in the back of my head. But I get into a flow state when I talk to a camera because talking and interacting with people is my natural state. That's why I'm a fitness coach. But anyways, I think flow is pretty cool. And that's a really, really useful tool for you no matter who you are. You know, whether you're just an employee working and you want to improve your performance, if you're an athlete and you're trying to figure out how to get more focused when you're training. I mean, it really doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. I think flow state can improve your productivity at just about anything. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about flow state? What kinds of things put you into a flow state? Flow is one of the topics in my mindset training. So when you join my coaching program, you don't only get a diet plan and an exercise plan, you also get a mindset training plan. It's a little bit more generic for all the clients because I think everyone can benefit from most of the topics I cover. But basically every week there's a different topic. So we go over things like meditation, things like reading, training an abundance and growth-oriented mindset. We talk about SMART goals. We talk about flow. So flow has its own module. And the more I read about it, the more interested I get because I really, really want to learn how to tap into that and harness it as a predictable, consistent source of power. So we'll keep talking about this, but as I go throughout my day, I'm about to work out here in about a half hour, and then I'm going to finish some work in the office. I'm going to be thinking about flow and how to get into it. Now, another kind of interesting thing that I've done with flow state And this was actually my idea, was create a flow tracking sheet. So what I mean by flow tracking sheet, gosh, it's dark in here today. It's basically, I pay attention to my mindset, and every time I feel like I'm getting into a flow state, I write down exactly what I'm doing and exactly what's happening. So, oddly enough, I've been noticing some patterns, and I think this could be a very useful exercise if you want to figure out what triggers your flow state and how you can get there more regularly. So, this is my master notebook. All right, so I used to have lists, right? And I had a master list that was always bigger, and it had everything on it. Long-term, short-term, medium-term, super urgent, everything was all on it. And I would just pick things off of that list. And as my lists grew and got out of control, I started writing things like my bucket list, business ideas, YouTube video topics, all on the master list. It was just a gigantic cluster. So I decided it would be better to just make a master journal and put tabs in it. So that's what I did. One of these says flow tracking. Good Lord. There it is. Anytime something happens and I get into a flow state, I write it down. So I have found that I get into flow most often when I have my earbuds in. There's very little as far as visual distractions go. So like if I'm in my office, my door's closed. I have found that the best music for getting into flow is ambient music, electronic music with no vocals, and instrumental music. So instrumental is like, I'm talking like movie and video game soundtracks, right? Mostly instrumental, classical music. Ambient music is different. There's all different kinds. And if you've never listened to ambient music before, you really, really should try. If you go on Spotify, there's a couple playlists. One is called Deep Sleep, and there's like Relax. The study playlists on Spotify haven't been that good, in my opinion. But you just search for ambient music, you'll find things like John Hopkins, Marconi Union, The American Dollar. They're all great. It's just really soothing music with nice beats. Really, really helps me focus. I have also found that I go into flow state, and this is, I have in parentheses here, during workouts mostly, if there's really loud music and bright lights. So on days like today when it's kind of like overcast and dark and quiet, it's really a lot harder for me to get into flow. I'm trying really hard today though, and making this video is helping. But there's other things too, like having listened to an inspiring lecture or a talk and just kind of absorbed some new information. If my wife is in a good mood, that's really, really important. When my wife is in a bad mood, it like seriously affects my mood. And this is common knowledge. I mean, you can look at the body of current scientific evidence, and there's just a profound acknowledgement of the fact that people mess with your head, and that can be good or bad. I mean, like right here, right in front of me, I have this book. If you want to learn more about how other people affect your mood and your productivity, read The Power of the Other by Dr. Henry Cloud, because this covers all of it. He talks about 4 different kinds of relationships, and basically, when other people are negative, you're screwed. And if other people are positive, it's going to lift you up. So really read this book, and it will make you want to be a better person for the sake of other people. And it'll also make you kind of despise your friends and family who are negative all the time. It will seriously change the way you look at them. So use this information with caution. What else do we have in here? Yeah, next in line is people have given me good energy, right? So, but I also have in parentheses, sometimes I get too excited. So, you know, it's a sword that cuts both ways. If people are too positive and too energetic, I'm very easily excitable, and sometimes that can throw me out of my focus. Like, I feel good and I'm very positive, lots of energy, but sometimes I just get too excited and I only want to do hedonistic things rather than be productive with work. This is another one that I found very interesting. I get into flow when I create things. If I have created something, it helps me get into a flow state. So this kind of goes back to when I was a kid and I would play video games or play with Legos and I go into flow. But now when I do things like paint, which is something new that I've taken up recently, or if I'm like working on my website and I create a new graphic, that really, it awakens something inside that helps me get into flow state. Just feeling like I'm artistic and creative. It just really, it does something for me. Maybe that's just me. I also have on here, I can't be angry about anything. Again, the negativity. If someone else is angry, it's going to affect me. If I'm angry, it's definitely going to affect my flow state. So I have to be serene. I have to be happy with how things in my life are in order to get into a flow state. I've also found that things like meditating or just taking a slow, quiet walk, doing breathing exercises, any kind of meditative activity can really help calm me down and help me access a flow state. Those things themselves alone are not what gets me into flow, but if I'm feeling angry, if I'm feeling tense or distracted, meditating or going for a walk or doing a breathing exercise can kind of, for lack of a better term, ground me, make me feel slower and more connected to myself. And that in turn helps me focus and figure out what I need to do to get into flow, what kinds of things I need to get done. So it's more like a supplement to getting into flow state. And then good weather. That's another one that I have written down. And again, today it's rainy, overcast. My tennis team, our games have been canceled like 3 or 4 times already in the last 2 weeks. So again, you just don't really get to go outside. You don't get that fresh air. There's no sunlight. That can certainly affect my flow state and my mood. And another thing that I have found is if there is a really close deadline, I go into flow state, which is funny. I wrote all these down before I read Brendon Burchard's book, High Performance Habits. And he talks about deadlines in his chapter about necessity. And he says that high performers, people who are always performing well and perform better than their peers, respect their deadlines. And they have hard deadlines. They don't do soft deadlines. And I've never been able to do soft deadlines. If homework is due a week from now, like on next Tuesday, I would wait until Monday night or Tuesday morning to do it every single time. If I told myself I'll have this homework done before Friday, I would never do it. The deadline has to be hard. It has to be dangerous. It has to have consequences, and it has to be close. I guess that's just, me reacting to the perceived threat of failing that deadline. It makes me go into a flow state. It's interesting. It's not a strategy I would recommend using all the time, but it certainly works. And the last one on here is loud feege. What that means is really loud Mr. Fiji Ouija. He's my favorite electronic music artist. You've probably never heard of him. If you have, that's awesome. Go check out Mr. Fiji Ouija. He makes amazing ambient dubstep. He's been my favorite since high school. He's like 4 years younger than me. He's super talented. But yeah, when I listen to his music, man, it's like tunnel vision. So I'm sure you have a favorite artist who makes music that just kind of stirs your soul. It's probably good for getting into flow state. But anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys. That's a little bit of my insight combined with Brendon Burchard's insight. I'm curious to hear your insight. Have you thought about flow state at all? Do you ever experience a work state where you're hyper-focused, you forget about your needs, and you just love what you're doing? If so, tell me about it in the comments. I'd love to hear how you tap into that. I'd love to hear about your experiences because I'm obsessed with getting better, being a higher performer, working harder, getting more fit, getting more smart, getting more creative. I want to do it all. And I want to help my clients do it all. So leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you think about flow state. And if you're interested in my coaching program and hearing more about what I know about flow and exercise and diet, nutrition, and how it all ties together to make your life better and amazing, leave me a comment, visit my website. The links are in the description. You can shoot me a message and we'll talk about it. But anyways, I got to finish putting that air conditioner away. I spilled water all over my staircase into the basement, so I got to clean that up. And then I'm going to work out. Hopefully get into a flow state. So I will talk to you guys soon. As always, I'll see you in the next video, and train lively.